linking strategy with data-driven decision making. If you want to start with HR analytics, you need to add value to the business. And in order to add value, you need to know the organizational strategy. And the big question is, do you know your organization's strategy? What I want you to do is take a piece of paper and a pen and write down the following things. First of all, what was your organization's revenue last year? Second question, what are the key financial metrics of your organization? Third question, what are your organization's profit margins? Question 4, what are your total staffing costs? Question 5, what is HR's added value per employee? Pause the video and write the answers to these questions down. My question to you is, how many of these questions did you get right? If you got 2 or 3 right, then you did a really good job. Usually, when I train HR professionals, they cannot answer a single question. And that's really weird. Especially when I'm training HR business partners, HR people, HR advisors who are partner with the business, and they can't even answer what last year's revenue was. Like, if you don't understand the business, if you don't understand the way the business makes money, which are amongst other things about the key financial metrics of your organization, if you don't understand that process, how are you gonna be a good HR business partner? You're an HR partner, you're not a business partner. Most HR professionals are unaware of the company's finances. Whether it's profit margins, whether it's revenue, whether it's the way the organization makes money, or whether it's the total staffing cost, they don't know it. And that's a problem because the decisions you make in an organization depend on your profit margin. If you take, for example, a company like Lenovo, they have a very slim profit margin. So the choices they need to make need to be very efficient. Their whole business needs to be really efficient because they need to sell a lot and they have a very small profit margin. Well, a company like Google or Facebook or most of the other tech companies have a really big profit margin. Their revenue per employee is somewhere between 300,000 or 400,000 euros all the way up to 2.5 million euros for Apple, for example. That's the revenue per employee. They also have awesome profit margins. They have really high margins compared to Lenovo. Knowing your profit margins is important to know how you can support the business. But believe me, most HR business partners, most HR managers don't know the profit margin of their own organization. And of course, if you work in a public organization, you're forgiven. Then the focus is not really that much on making profit. But then I can ask you a number of other questions about your business, which you might not be able to answer. And we'll look into that in the next few slides. The final point on this slide is how can HR become a tactical or strategical partner when they are not aware of the company's strategy and the company's key performance indicators. If you're unaware of this data, if you're unaware of the metrics, how can you add value through analytics or through strategic workforce planning? Simple answer is you can't. And that's kind of a one-sided battle. Why? Because management usually associates personnel with cost. More personnel means higher cost. If the employer can fire a number of employees and generate the same revenue, he or she will, because that means lower cost. So as HR, you're judged, you're assessed by the money that you burn. HR is a money burner, a fee burner. Well, the rest of the department, the rest of the business is a fee earner. And as HR, in order to be competitive and in order to add value through analytics or through strategic workforce planning, you need to understand the business. So let me ask you a simpler question. Write down your organization's strategy. And second, write down your HR strategy. I hope you know them and I hope you can write them down, because if you can't, it's going to be hard for you to add value. And if you can't write them down, I would say pause the video, start to talk with your manager, start to talk with the directors and ask them, what is our strategy? Explain our strategy to me. In this slide, you see the business model canvas. The business model canvas is a very handy tool by Strategizer, and this canvas lists the key business elements in an organization. So it lists the key partners, which partners do you need in order to provide your service, the key activities, what are the key activities we're actually doing in order to provide value, the key resources you need to produce your final product, the value proposition, so the value you offer to your customer, the kind of customer relationships that you want to develop, the channels, how do you reach your customer, who is your customer, most important, your customer segment, your cost structure, and your revenue structure. The challenge that I have for you is, after this video, in order to check if you really understand what your company is doing and your company's strategy, download the business model canvas and take your time to write down and to fill in the different fields of the business model canvas. And if you can't define the value proposition, or if you can't define the channels that your organization is using to sell the product to the customer or to deliver the product to the customer, ask around, ask in your company, and make sure you understand your business model. The business model canvas is a tool that a lot of directors and managers use in order to define their company strategy. So management disappears into a retreat, stays there for a week, and then comes out with a filled-in business model canvas, and they know about the strategy for the coming few years. If you as an HR business partner or as an HR manager understand the business model canvas and really understand what the business is doing, your value as a business partner or as an analyst really increases. Let's take a step back. How does the management board define strategy, organizational strategy? The best known model to do this is the SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And as an organization, you first look internally. You see, hey, what are the strengths, the things that are helpful within my organization? So we're a really good data company. We understand how to do data analysis, and that's why we help companies do HR analytics, for example. Those are our strengths. We have a young and very innovative and very lean workforce, so we're able to innovate really quickly. Those are the capabilities of an organization that make them competitive. So this is where the organization really focuses on and where the organizational strategy is formed around, because the organizational capabilities are leveraged in order to create a competitive advantage. So when you apply this model or keep this model in the back of your mind, you understand where the organizational strategy is coming from. The strengths or the capabilities of your workforce, the people that you have in your organization, thus determine the strategy that will be followed in the future. But not exclusively. Sometimes a strategy will be created which is not aligned with the workforce, and then HR needs to make different decisions and attract different employees from the employees that they traditionally attracted in that specific organization. And then if you follow the model, you have in your external environment a number of helpful opportunities and a number of harmful threats. So this SWOT analysis helps to define organizational strategy, and it's a step that's usually before the management board in their retreat fills in the business model canvas. They think, what is my workforce and what is my organization capable of, and how can we leverage those capabilities in order to create a competitive advantage towards the future? And this is how that looks like. By doing a market, a product, and a competition analysis, the organizational strategy is formed. And a SWOT analysis is part of the first step. So the organizational strategy is a long-term process. It's about 5 to 10 years in the future. Now, the organizational strategy translates to a quantity and a quality of the workforce. So the workforce needs to comply with certain criteria from the organizational strategy. After the organizational strategy has been formulated, the quantity and the quality of the workforce can be determined. Do we need an increase in employees, or do we need a decrease in employees? Do we need people who are really innovative, or do we need a very agile organization? So do we need certain qualities in our workforce that we don't have yet? Those decisions are based on the organizational strategy. The HR strategy follows the desired quantity and quality of the workforce. So if the workforce needs to increase and employees need to be agile and innovative, it means that the HR strategy is changed in terms of sourcing and recruitment. You need to find a specific type of people. Performance management is changing because you need to assess on innovative capabilities instead of die-hard performance. Learning and development will change because you need to develop a more flexible, more agile, and more innovative workforce. So you need different programs. Your rewards and promotions will change, etc. So following the organizational strategy, the workforce needs to comply with a certain quantity and quality, and then the HR strategy follows. Now, usually what you see in an organization is that people are working in recruitment, or they're working in performance management, or they're a learning and development expert, and they have no clue what's going on in the HR strategy. And you often see competition between them. So recruitment doesn't really want to talk to learning and development because they're doing something that's similar to them, and they really don't want to talk to them. Sometimes those sub-departments are competing with each other, which is, if you look at it from a strategic standpoint, ridiculous. So as an HR analyst, when you're focusing on one of those sub-departments, don't fall into that trap of thinking like, hey, one department is better than the other, or I should really focus on learning and development because recruitment, that's not really adding value, but it's all about learning and development. And when you start with HR analytics, don't make the mistake that HR is making at the operational level. Take a top-down approach. Take a step back. See what the competitive advantages of the organization are, and how you can improve strategy execution, organizational strategy, through the quantity and the quality of the workforce into the HR strategy. If an organization, for example, wants to drive their innovative capabilities, say, hey, there's a certain quality of the workforce that needs to be changed. Translate that to HR strategy. How does HR align those strategic goals with the very practical and operational work that they're doing? And then think, how can I add value as an HR analyst? So can I, for example, track learning and development efforts and see whether the organization actually becomes more innovative? In other words, test the effectiveness of learning and development efforts towards the organizational goals. So take a top-down approach, look at the organizational strategy, look at the things that the organization is good at, and then analyze the workforce and see how you can add value to the HR strategy.